Namaskar. Thank you for inviting me to present at the Waves 2020 conference. My name is Anil Maheshwari. I'm a professor at Maharishi International University in Fairfield, Iowa, USA. Today I will be presenting on transcendence to the Vedic level through reading of Vedic literature. So I will start with what is consciousness and what is transcendence. I'll present a V theory of transcendence. We'll talk about what is Vedic literature, how it's organized, and how it should be read or how we read it. Then I will show some evidence of transcendence, both verbal and with EEG, and implications for development of potential for human beings. So let's begin with homage to our Guru, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Chant with me if you would. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara. Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah. All glory to Maharishi and all our gurus who helped us attain this wisdom. He said, life finds its purpose and fulfillment in the expansion of happiness. Not my happiness or your happiness, but expansion of happiness in the world. The more we bring others happiness, the more we get happiness. But we can also get happiness through transcending to that level where life is bliss. He said, and I quote, long quote, I'll read aloud, the crucial mistake that has dogged mankind for countless centuries is the loss of understanding of the primary importance of the field of pure consciousness, means pure awareness, unbounded by anything. It is this field alone, which is the field of all possibilities and the home of all the laws of nature. Unless thought and field and action are experienced in this field, life remains incomplete and plagued by ups and downs, imbalance. Only direct experience can reestablish this importance of pure consciousness as the field that we must contact before we can be successful in whatever interests us. So he clearly said you need to connect with this field of consciousness. So what is consciousness? Pure awareness. So at one level, this pure being, just be aware of everything, potentially everything, the whole cosmos. But then at one level, another level, we are a human being, directly bounded by our body, our thoughts, our time, resources. We can bound them in various ways. So even as we live a life of a human being, how can we enjoy the benefits of pure being? That is the purpose of this talk. So I will present this theory V, which I kind of originated, again, with Maharishi's inspiration, a model of transcendence. So let's say we live at surface reality. This is where we are separate, individual beings with our own characteristics, desires, etc. Using a particular technique, any technique, we transcend to the absolute. You can use transcendental meditation. You may have your own. And then we get in touch at that level of consciousness where it's just pure consciousness, which is the field of all the laws of nature. At that point, all our thoughts, emotions, expressions, perceptions just begin to become very fine and they go away. At that level, we are just pure consciousness. After staying there, being with that pure consciousness, being unbounded, we do come back out to the field of action, the field of world, the surface reality, but a little bit ahead, a little bit more charged, a little bit more energized, more joyous, more rested, more vigorous, more creative. That is the purpose. So let me explain what are the various states of consciousness. The first three, and what is the level of awareness of the self and of the world out there, the content of our experiences. Top three are what is called ordinary states of consciousness. Then there is the fourth state of consciousness. Then there's the higher states of consciousness. What are the ordinary states of consciousness? Sleep, dream, and waking. In sleeping state, we are not aware of ourselves. We're not aware of anything in the world. But in dreaming, which happens sometimes during the sleeping, right? We have no awareness of ourselves, but we have some illusory experience of what is going on in the world. And then there's a waking state where we are aware of ourselves, like now, and also aware of our perceptions. When we transcend, we reach that fourth stage, Turiya, Shivam Shantam Chaturtham Manyante Sa Atma Sa Vigyeya. That is Atma. The fourth state is Atma. It is worth knowing. It is important for us to know our own true self, the Atma. It is a state where we are unbounded consciousness, what you see in the yellow band, but we have no awareness of the content of experience. We are just pure awareness. Then there can be, Maharshi said, there are higher states of consciousness, such as a cosmic consciousness, where you have awareness of the self, even when you're working in the external field. That being infuses within you at the level of action, and your action becomes more settled, more life-affirming, more enjoyable, brings bliss to everyone. As you develop more transcendence capability, it reaches the next higher level, which you said refined cosmic consciousness, where the distance between the inside and the outside becomes very, very fine. Your perception becomes very fine. And then you can reach the seventh state of consciousness, unity state of consciousness, or Brahman state of consciousness, the same state of unity, where Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, where we are one with the universe. You are one with the universe. There is no difference between you and the universe. I'm aware of myself, the true self, and the rest of the world is also just fluctuations of that field of oneness. So let's move to the next part, which is Vedic literature. We talked of transcendence consciousness, and let's look at Veda. What is Veda? Veda is total knowledge. Veda, the definition I like from Maharshi is that Vedic literature is the authentic song of the self, by the self, for the self. You know, Vedic literature will cognize the transcendent state, and deep trance of transcendent state, let's say in some sense, by the rishis. And it just came out of them. And of course, it was codified in Sanskrit language, which was considered the language of Vedas. But anytime you put form to it, you're limiting it. That's why a lot of our tradition has been oral. Vedoham. Vedic literature is within me. In fact, we've shown the structure of Vedas is the structure of human physiology. Art matrain siddhyati. By this Vedic recitation itself, one can become enlightened. In fact, we know as Govindam. They said, Krishna said, you just bhaj the name of the Govind, just chant the name of Govind, and then you will be enlightened. So reading Ved is a way of reaching a level of unbounded consciousness, the pure consciousness. And the sound of every Vedic hymn, every Vedic syllable is different. It has different effect on the physiology. And it can, when done for the pure level, it can actually manifest reality if we are at that state. So that's aspiration, to get a level where our physiology is pure and it can vibrate with the pure sounds of Vedic knowledge. What is Vedic literature? You all know those many branches, but Maharishi Mahesh Yogi organized it as 40 branches and along 3 pillars of knower, process of knowing, and the known. You can say subject, verb, object. So Rig Veda is at the top, Agni Mile Purohitam, kind of the first opening hymn, which is then expanded in the rest of Veda, Rig Veda, which is expanded into the 3 Vedas, Sam Veda, Yajur Veda, Third Veda. Then we have the Vedangas, Shiksha, Kalp, Vyakaran, Nirukta, Chanda, Jyotish. We have 6 darshanas, Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Sankhya, Yoga, Karma, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. We have Upaveda, like Gandharva, Dhanur, Stapatya Veda. And we have these various Ayurveda branches. We have this very Ithas and Puran, and then we have these Pratishakyas. So this way he organized 40 branches. So I just completed earlier this month an MA in reading Vedic literature as a degree, in which we read 9 different branches among these. And what I'm going to share with you is experience of reading one of those branches. But first, let me tell you what were the principles that followed for reading Vedic literature. First, Vedic sound should flow easily from our mouth. We should read low and slow through the sandhi and the gaps and the samhita. Enjoy the potential of the gaps between sounds. That is very crucial. At least Maharshi Vedic Pandits are trained to read like this, highlighting the gap. The subtle gap between two syllables is the space for transformation, so we should read syllable by syllable. Second, definitely read the front and the end of it. The first syllable is the wholeness, the last one is the wholeness, and then it sort of expands like a diamond and comes back and ends there. So what that means is the Vedas are its own commentary. You don't need human commentary. The Apaurishayas, not created by human beings. The Vedas just expand on themselves from the first syllable to many syllables. So be aware of that. Third, read from a transcendental or subtle self. How do you get subtle? Well, you can start with transcendental meditation or other techniques, or as you begin to read Vedic literature, you will get more transcendent. Because the ordinary language is built at sensory level. When you read from the transcendent, don't read from that level, the knowledge of the gaps of transformation is lost. And fourthly, from behavioral level, I would say read regularly, read as a habit, at the same time, carving out high quality time, settled time, maybe Brahma Muhurat, maybe early in the morning, late in the evening, or around whatever times. Anyway, so that is the idea of how to read Vedic literature, at least how we read it. Now, let me go to evidence. So I'll show two sets of evidences, one around verbal description or imagery in the head, and the second, how we did the EEG during or around the time of reading Ramayana. So, Ramayana has many parts. So during Uttarakhand, I was getting imageries of enchantment. Like one of the most beautiful images was of standing at the beach at sunset in Hawaii, very enchanting. During the Balkand, it's this whole idea of a transformation, a tall, soft plastic tunnel turning towards the sun into the sky. I felt like expansion, like growth. And during the Ayodhya Kand, it was very blissful. I got the feeling of being a bright, sunny saffron flag, pulleyed to the top of my crown of the head, a sense of tingling on my crown chakra or crown of my head. I felt feeling of expansion like Ashwamedh Yagya, the birds flying, and a sense of invincibility rising like a kavach. So it was like feeling secure and expanding. What a joy to read Ayodhya. No wonder people like to read Ramayana. And during Sundarkand, I got very blissful, sort of joyful, happy memories or imagery, or more dream-oriented imagery. So anyway, these are kind of my feelings, and everybody else reported different experiences based on their physiology and their experience with it, and what they were at that particular state of consciousness. But now let me shift to a more empirical evidence, again very anecdotal from one person. So here is the EEG map of reading upon reading Vedic Ramayana. While we're reading, this is the average level of our brain integration. The way to read it is that the points are, let's say, up to about 32 points of measurement of electrical signal on our skull. So we wear a cap in which the electrodes would measure the electrical activity. And then what you see is the various different frequency bands going from the smallest to highest bands. And then we focus on alpha 1 band, which has been shown to be the signature of transcendence. Alpha 2 is more focused on mindfulness, and then the other on the left is more sleeping, and the later is more focused activity. But in any case, let's focus on the alpha 1 band, and you see there's a lot of brain integration. I was really surprised. And then upon reading Ramayana, I got this kind of EEG signature. During that same session at the Brain Center in our university, then we were asked to listen to chanting of Ramayana from Vedic Pandits. Again, we saw a lot of coherence in the brain, a lot of brain integration. Now I'm going to go back to the previous one and then go forward. If you see that, you just focus on the thing under the red signal, red circle, you will see during reading, is even more coherence than listening to Ramayana. So we like to listen to Ramayana, which is very transcending, but I found that if you read it the way we were taught to, you can be with transcendent that way. It can develop your connection to the absolute field of absolute consciousness. And this also, the third measurement during the same session was after finishing reading, then we did TM, and then, or was it we did TM before? But this is how our TM, even after TM, we were feeling like this. There's some level of integration, but sort of we were just aware of ourselves at this point. Maybe it was TM was done before or after, I forget. The point is that during TM, it was not so coherent, but going back during reading and listening, this is reading, this is listening, and this is after TM. So look at that. You can transcend on reading Vedic literature. Isn't that amazing if we read it the right way? What is the summary? Summary is that development of consciousness is key to development of full potential and achieving bliss and happiness in life. That's what Maharishi said. And that capability has to be revived. We presented a V theory, a model of two levels of transcendent consciousness, which is the surface level and the transcendent level. You go into a technique and come back out more refreshed. We describe, at least my perception, is that Vedic literature is a song of consciousness. It's a song of the self, by the self, for the self. So if we treat it in that way, respect it in that way, and listen to it low, slow, respecting every syllable by syllable. Maharishi said that treat every syllable like the cup, the tigress holds a cup in her mouth, very gently, firm enough, but not too firm that will hurt, just very carefully, and read from regular and settled state of consciousness. And then I showed that EEG evidence shows that Vedic literature, reading Vedic literature or writing, listening can bring higher brain integration, which is associated with creativity and well-being through other research we've shown. And we found that reading Vedas, or at least in this case, could produce higher brain integration than listening. So this is the joy of reading Vedic literature, and I'm glad I could share this experience. More research is ongoing, and we will be able to find across dozens of students, across dozens of, or several sessions of reading Vedic literature, and that research would come out whenever it comes out. So thank you very much, and I would be glad to take questions. Namaskar.